Thinking is becoming a radical act in today's society. So, on this channel, from time to time, I will make videos when I go on my night walks. And in some of those videos, I explain why I go for night walks because, as someone who writes a lot of dark philosophy in my books, I find that I get the most out of my automatic writing, a lot of my creativity, a lot of the clarity that I get when it comes to me writing out my books and stuff. I usually write so well during the nighttime because of the clarity that I get from just being in the void, metaphorically speaking. And right now, I'm on a night walk and I was thinking to myself of how thinking is becoming a radical act. And that's because it's pretty obvious. You got AI for one. People, rather than coming up with concepts authentically, coming up with skits authentically, coming up with like certain like articles and stuff, you could tell that it's written by AI. Like a lot of times when I see certain articles or posts on like Facebook and stuff like that, everyone sounds like ChatGPT. So AI for one. Also, people tend to follow the herd, and right now, especially with social media, people are afraid to step outside the box and figure themselves out, really embody who they are. Because I notice with certain hobbies that people share, it's like depending how weird it is, it's not the norm. People usually make fun of those who have weird hobbies. So to avoid being, bullied and stuff like that, people go along with the herd and they follow hobbies that is popular. And by doing stuff like that, it's like, okay, no one's thinking, no one's being authentic. Let me not say no one, because there are people out there that are authentic. But for the most part, everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's talking about the same thing. Everybody's following the same thing. Majority of the people are doing the same thing. So therefore, thinking for yourself, thinking at all, is becoming a radical act. You can see it in the political arena. If you have a different way of thinking, if you think more on this side, people on that side are going to attack you. And I've definitely experienced that. So I find myself being quiet on that part. Like, I believe what I believe on the political stuff, and I don't really speak too much on that. Even though on my other channel, because I have another channel, from time to time, I do. I just can't help myself. But thinking is becoming a radical act. And I was thinking about this more so because of the fact that I write dark philosophy. The way that I write, my style is dark, esoteric, urban fiction / erotica. And I find how I write and the way that I write goes against the grain, because on this channel I speak about how when I write with the idea and the concept of getting people to go deeper and think, getting people to tap into those shadows that they tend to hide away, they tend to ignore it. I like to bring those creatures up in my writing. Like, for instance, I had written a darker version of a Cinderella story, and the people who've read my book so far, they absolutely loved it. There was some that was just like, whoa, they couldn't handle my book. A couple of them were Christians, so they couldn't handle like one of them, they got up to like maybe the second chapter and was like, I support you, but I can't finish this book. They thought it was too dark, and I was like, you're only on chapter 2 and it's not even that bad. But it's because I bring up those shadows, and I tap into the subconscious, the unconscious of people. And because I do that, I'm like, in today's world where it's really hard to be yourself without, the bigger influence of people, of, going outside of the box, it's hard to do that. So for me, I find that I'm going against the grain. The way that I write, and I'm only getting started, the way that I write is, I guess, pretty radical, because I'm challenging people to go deeper, to think, bring up those shadows, bring up those creatures. Stepping into yourself and start asking questions about anything. It could be how you feel, or what do you want to do, or not even like what do you want to do in life, but what do you want to do today, blah blah blah. From the simple things, and then from there it broadens out to bigger questions. And I say from the simple things because from the simple things, people can't even think on that level. Like, for instance, what do I want to do today? Instead of figuring out what you want to do today, you end up being influenced by your peers or social media. You end up doing what everybody else is doing instead of doing what you want to do, if that makes sense. Earlier today, as I was walking, like maybe 20 minutes ago, as I was walking, where I live, we have a bunch of animals like coy wolves, foxes, deers, turkeys, raccoons, rabbits, some other weird animals that I don't even know what the heck they are. And I live in New York, so it's pretty amazing to see all that where I live. But anyway, and it's not even upstate New York. I live in one of the 5 boroughs. As I was walking, I heard a loud noise coming from across the lake. And it sounded like an animal in pain. And a few years ago, the fox and the wolf population, we got coyotes too out here, that has grown. And where I live, there used to be so many rabbits, but ever since the predators came over here, the population of the rabbits has declined. So as I was walking, I heard an animal screaming, and from across the lake, you can't even see where it's coming from. You just know it's coming from somewhere. And as dark as that is, it was very poetic to what I wanted to talk about. That scream reminded me of the shadows that are trying to come up, trying to surface, the authenticity trying to surface. But people are living on the surface of the daytime, where there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of illusions and all that stuff. I'm not saying the daytime is bad or anything. The daytime is great. I can only be in the night for so long before I lose my mind. But there's a lot of distractions and stuff going on in the day. But when the night comes, when it's more quiet, that's when those that's when the shadows tend to start screaming. People tend to hide it, people tend to ignore it. That's why people tend to get more drunk at night. If you notice, people tend to get more drunk at night, besides from the weekend of partying. But every day of the week, somebody's getting drunk. Because that nighttime brings it out. That clarity starts to come in. And a lot of people can't handle what they've been ignoring. That's why I like how I write, because I bring that all up, and I'm really challenging people to go deeper on themselves. So I'm definitely going against the grain. So if you're somebody watching, I will say, like, check in with yourself. Have you noticed that you tend to stuff your way of thinking away because you're afraid that you're going to be attacked or whatever? Do you feel like thinking is becoming a radical act? I definitely noticed it. Even when you speak out on, like, morals, that, like, just the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Common sense of things that you could speak on. Like, this doesn't make sense. People tend to attack you for it. And it could be the most common sense of things. It's crazy. It's crazy. But this is why I love what I do, because I feel like the work that I'm putting out, and the other rebels like myself, we're the change. We're the change of what is coming down the pipe. If we don't start going against the grain and thinking, we're going to be a lost cause. So yes, in my opinion, thinking has become a radical act. So fuck it.